Welcome everyone. Today's topic is critical thinking. So in this, we will see what critical thinking is, who a critical thinker is, what are the benefits of critical thinking, and what are the barriers to critical thinking. So the first one is, who is a critical thinker? A critical thinker is one who is able to think through things to come up with judicious evaluations of circumstances. So from this, we can understand that a critical thinker is an individual who thinks through things. That means before talking or before acting, that person thinks for a while, and he or she comes up with what? He or she comes up with judicious evaluations of circumstances. That means that this particular person or this particular individual, they come up with good judgment or good valuations of what? Good valuation based on the circumstances or good valuations according to the circumstances. That means that a critical thinker is a person who thinks for a short amount of time and comes out with the best solution according to certain circumstances. Now, the second point is a critical thinker is also called a wise person. A critical thinker can also be called as a wise person because just like a wise person, the critical thinker is also filled with wisdom. The critical thinker is also knowledgeable because the wise person, when they give you an advice, what they does is that they don't simply speak. They reflect, they think about a great advice to give you. That's the same thing that a critical thinker does. He or she, before speaking or before acting, they pause for a moment, they reflect, they remember the facts, and they act appropriately. Now, the third point is critical thinking helps us in achieving intellectual integrity. It means that if we continue or if we practice critical thinking, it helps in achieving intellectual integrity. Means that it helps us in achieving moral values, moral statements. It helps us in exercising good moral judgments. These are the benefits or these are the things that a critical thinker does. Now, the next slide we can see what critical thinking is all about. We have 5 different forms. The first one is reasoning. Critical thinking helps you to become better in reasoning. Just like I said earlier, before you speak, before you say something, before you act, you always try to figure out what would happen if I act like this, what would happen if I act like that. So reasoning, that plays an important role in critical thinking. Second one is evaluation. The definition also we saw that evaluation. What kind of evaluation? Judicious evaluation of circumstances. So here also, the right outweighs the wrong. The evaluation that the critical thinker comes up with is that what he or she wants to say, it is right or wrong. If they act in such a way, what would the outcome be? So the critical thinker, they always come up with judicious evaluations or good judgments while evaluating. The third one is problem solving. The critical thinker has a great problem solving skills. They are very apt in problem solving because they reflect, they think about the problem, they come up with innovative solutions, they think outside the box. These are all the things that helps a person to solve a problem. And a critical thinker will be great in solving problems. The next one is decision making. Critical thinking helps you to make the right decision. Why? Because when you are deciding something and if you apply critical thinking, the first thing you would do is you would look at the facts, you would look at the reasons, you would look at the pros, you would look at the cons, and what would happen if you act in such a way, or what would happen if you follow another path. So all these decision making process is helped by critical thinking. And finally, we have analyzing. Critical thinking. In critical thinking, what happens is that you analyze a situation. You analyze the situation in your mind, and after that only you will act. After that only you will speak about the situation and come up with judicious evaluation of circumstances. So these are basically the 5 important critical thinking aspects. Those are reasoning, evaluation, problem solving, decision making, and analyzing. Next, we have benefits of critical thinking, or the advantages of critical thinking, or how critical thinking affects you or impacts your life. The first one is reflect and become rational. Reflect or become rational. It means that, just like I said earlier, if you are a critical thinker, before saying something, before acting something, you always reflect. You think about the topic, you try to figure out the facts, you try to figure out different ideas, and after only that, you will speak or you will act accordingly. The second one is exercise good rational judgment. Benefits of critical thinking, the second point is that you will exercise, that you will start to do good rational judgments. You will start judging on the basis of reason rather than what? Rather than emotion. Now the next one is think through things for ourselves. You will consider yourself to be the number one priority. You will consider how you would feel if something happens to you, or how you would feel if you act in such a way. How would it impact you? How would it affect you? These are all the things that happens when you think through things for yourself or ourselves. Now the next one is be reasonable and fair. Next one is be reasonable and fair. For example, you're conducting an interview and there are two candidates. One is your childhood friend and the other one is an unknown candidate. You don't know that person, you just met that person. But you already know your childhood friend. So you have a little bit of biased or prejudiced feeling towards that person. But unfortunately, the person that you don't know, that you just met now, is more qualified and more capable than your friend. So at that time, you should apply what? You should apply critical thinking. Otherwise, what would happen? You would select a candidate that does not deserve the position. So as a result, if you apply critical thinking, you can be reasonable and you can be fair. You can select the important person or the person who is capable to succeed or handling a certain task. The next one is believe or do things on the basis of reason rather than emotion. So this is an important factor or the important point of the benefit of critical thinking. It means that when you want to do something, or when you want to believe something, what you have to do, you have to base it on reason rather than emotion. Because when we are angry, if someone comes to disturb you, you will reply in what kind of way? You will show your anger towards that person. But after a while, when your anger subsides, when you are not angry anymore, you will feel sorry, you will feel pity for acting in such a way. But the words you said, that can never be taken back. So you have to understand that you have to act based on what? You have to act based on reason rather than emotions. And the last one is be open-minded. Critical thinking helps you to be open-minded. It helps you to look different things from different perspectives, from each and everyone's perspectives. You will accept things rather quickly and you will be ready to accept your faults, and people you criticize, they will also accept you in return. The next point is barriers to critical thinking. So we are not able to attain critical thinking, or we cannot do critical thinking because of certain barriers. And these barriers, some of them are sociological in nature and some are psychological in nature. It means that some barriers are put forward by the society and some barriers are put forward by we itself. Or those are psychological barriers, the barriers that we form inside ourselves. And sociological barriers are the barriers that the society forms for us. So the first barrier is social brainwashing and our view of the world. It means that society decides what we want to see. We get information about everything through social media, through news channels, through news medias, through papers, through our friends, through our colleges, through our schools, through our parents. So everything is provided by us or provided to us by the society. But society here brainwashes us. Society only wants us to understand or wants us to feel what society wants us to see. Then a best example is when I tell the name Hitler, the first person that comes to your mind is an evil dictator. Hitler is considered to be one of the most cruel person that ever lived, or one of the most evil person that ever lived in the world. And it rightfully is, because he murdered a large number of Jews and they were put in concentration camp and they were killed by inhaling poisonous gas. But we only know about Hitler. We don't know about the cruelty done by another person, done by America basically. They dropped 2 atom bombs, one in Hiroshima and one in Nagasaki, called Fat Man and Little Boy. And the consequence of dropping that atom bomb is still being suffered by the people there. But we don't remember about that. We don't even know the president who gave the order to drop the atomic bombs. The president is called Henry Truman. But we don't know about that person. Why? Because society doesn't teach us all these things. Society doesn't want us to know about the history of America. They want to cover it all up. That is why we consider Hitler as an evil person, or Germany as an evil country and not America as an evil country. So society brainwashes us. Second one is tendency to think in binaries. That is the second one. It means that binaries. What are binaries? Zeros and ones are binaries. In language, binaries means good, bad, pleasure, plain, white, black, light, darkness. You can't explain light without darkness. You can't explain good without bad. All these are binary terms. If one is absent, if light is absent, you cannot explain what darkness is. If pleasure is absent, you cannot explain what pain is. So all these are binary terms. So the second barrier is tendency to think in binaries. That means if a situation arises, you only see it as white and black, or good or bad. But there is also a gray area. Sometimes the problem may differ from each and everyone's perspectives. When I am looking from my perspective, the problem may consider to be bad, but if I am looking from another person's perspective, the problem may consider to be good. That is the second one. So you should stop doing what? You should stop doing, or you should stop thinking in binaries. And you have to do what? You have to apply, or you have to look forward from different perspectives. Now the next one is fears regarding free thinking. These two are psychological barriers. Why? Because you are scared. You are scared to say what you really want. For example, you recently watched a movie with your friends and you didn't like that movie. But each and every single person in your group liked that movie. So if you stand out and say that I didn't like that movie was not that great, what happens is that you will get teased. You will be made fun at. So as a result, you are scared. For example, in the recent times, the last year, we had a number of online classes. So at that time, some students in the beginning, they used to respond to the teachers. But after a while, they stopped doing so. Why? Because they are scared. If they continue keeping on doing, or if they continue keeping on responding to the teachers, maybe their friends will start making fun of them. Maybe their friends would stop being friends with them. Or maybe they will be isolated from the group. So as a result, they are scared. That is the fears regarding the free thinking. You are scared about what will happen if you say your point of view out loud. How would other people think? How would they judge you? Would you become alone? Would people isolate you? These are the problems. Now the next one is egocentrism. That's an easy one. What is egocentrism? Egocentrism means that you are the center of the universe. You view yourself as a being who knows everything. Whatever you say is right, and everything should act according to what you say. People should not object you, everyone should listen to you, and whatever you say must be followed by each and every single person. That is one of the greatest barriers to critical thinking. Why? Because egocentrism. You are not the center of the universe. First you have to think about that, and you have to slowly change that. So each and everyone has a little bit of egocentrism in ourselves. So if we change that, then we will be a step closer to attaining what? Attaining critical thinking. Now the last one is personal interest and personal experience. This is also a psychological barrier. So personal interest and personal experience, what does that mean? It means that personal interest. Suppose you are interested in a certain celebrity and something bad comes out, a bad news comes about the celebrity. A celebrity said certain things, such and such thing. But due to your interest in them, you won't believe the news even if it is true. So that is a barrier to critical thinking. The next one is personal experiences. For example, if you had a great friend, you have best friends along the way, and suddenly that friend broke his or her friendship with you. So as a result, you were shattered, you were left in pieces. So after this horrible experience, from next time onwards, you will be scared by making friends. Why? Because you don't want to live, or you don't want to relive that experiences once again. So what happens? You judge the situation based on your personal experiences. And it's also a barrier to critical thinking, because not everyone will just leave you like the friend that did earlier. So here we studied about what critical thinking is. A critical thinker is one who thinks through things and comes up with judicious evaluation of circumstances. That means before thinking or before acting, the individual looks for the better way and looks for the easier way to come out with a solution. Next, we understood what are the different benefits of critical thinking. Being open-minded, you have to reflect and become rational, you have to exercise good judgments and things like that. And finally, we saw the barriers to critical thinking. There are 5 barriers to critical thinking, and one is sociological barrier, that is social brainwashing, what society wants us to see. Second one is tendency to think in binaries, that is thinking in yes or no, good or bad, right or bad. We forgot about the grey area. Next, we have fears regarding free thinking. Here, we are scared to say what we really want to say. What would the other person say? How would they react? Would they make fun of us? And then we have egocentrism, thinking that you are the center of the world or center of the universe. And finally, we have personal interest and personal experience. So that's all for today. Thank you.